Welcome to our Spotlight on the Parish, where we get to know members of St. George Episcopal Church. I'm Mary Ann DeSantis, and I'm talking to Andre Lash, organist and music director for St. George. Andre, thank you for sharing your story with us today. Music plays a huge role in your life, but what is your first musical memory?
Well, my first musical memory is hearing my mother, who was a fine pianist herself, who never pushed me into music at all, but who was a piano teacher, and hearing her teach young students in our home. And then I would come behind them and try to play their songs by ear. And fortunately, my mother had the knowledge to know that I needed also to learn to read music and play from notes. So she contacted a really fine private piano teacher of young students who lived in our county and got us connected, and I started taking lessons. That's how I got started.
Well, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what your musical training was.
Actually, I grew up on the plains of southeastern Kansas. It was, a fairly rural area, but we didn't live on a farm. We lived in a small town, and it was a fairly active area musically. Some good musicians came from there. One or two composers of note came from there, and some string players of note. But I did study piano with Ada Bell Morris, the teacher with whom Mom had gotten me connected, up until my senior year of high school, well, really up until my junior year of high school. And then I did my undergraduate degree in both piano and organ at Pittsburgh State University in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and then did a master's degree at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in church music with organ concentration, but also a very healthy dose of conducting training, choral conducting. And then later, eventually did the doctoral degree in organ performance at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York.
I'm always curious when I meet a professional musician, what kind of music they listen to when they want to relax or do something besides professional music. What's your favorite kinds of music to listen to?
When I want to do something besides making it myself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I do listen to jazz and enjoy that very much. Occasionally a little easy listening music, but generally it's jazz or classical. I'm a big classicist, so that's my first choice usually, but I also listen to a fairly good bit of jazz, really well played jazz. Yeah.
Okay. During Pentecost, you were one of the parishioners who spoke in a foreign language during our service, and you spoke Portuguese. Tell us a little bit how you came to learn Portuguese.
Well, actually, my second languages as far as spoken language are German and Spanish. Yeah. My doctoral dissertation had a lot to do with early Spanish organ music, but early Spanish organs and organ music are very closely related to early Portuguese organs and organ music. And some of the research that had already been done was not in English or Spanish, but in Portuguese. So I had to learn to read Portuguese, which, as one would expect, is fairly closely related to Spanish. It's not as closely related to Spanish as one would think, but there's some relationship. Mm-hmm. And I also have, or had, deceased now, a couple of family members who were Portuguese speaking, who had been immigrants and were Portuguese speaking. They're no longer with us, but I never really learned to speak Portuguese, and to speak it fluently in a conversation is taxing, to say the least. I can say good morning, bom dia, or I can ask where are the restrooms, that sort of thing, or where is the elevator. That's about the limit of my conversational Portuguese. But if I have it in hand, printed, I can read it and translate it pretty much as I go, and I can pronounce it
All the important
pretty
things.
correctly.
All the important
Yeah, right.
phrases.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the rewards of being, you know, the organist and music director for St. George. What?
Well, first of all, St. George, I think, is a very, very healthy fellowship. It's a strong congregation. For all church music settings, for me, it's where the musical part of me and the spiritual part of me really come together. They really gel. And it's just joy, just sheer joy, to be able to lead people in worship and to help them find a place, a spiritual place within the music that they're making. The fellowship is wonderful. The sense of being able to teach in some way as I rehearse is wonderful. When I hear a choir, whether it's St. George or somewhere else, maybe struggling to make the right sounds or even to sing exactly the right pitches, and over a period of weeks or months, I hear them finally get that. That in itself is a wonderful reward. It is.
Thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything
You're welcome.
that you would like to add before we sign off?
Let everything that hath breath praise the Lord. That's, from the Psalms. So
Very
it's a
nice.
pretty good motto.
Thank you. Thank you.